Hey everyone, this is Caly. I am here today to share a poinsettia card using lots of different dyes and products from Simon Says Stamp. This poinsettia spray uses lots of different dyes, old and new, so we're going to take a look at the four that I'm using here. They are the tall poinsettia, pine needle cluster, berry stems, and twinkly lights. These dyes are holiday staples, so if you don't have these exact four, I'm sure you have some variations of them in your stash and can easily recreate what I'm making today. Now, to save some time, I did pre-die cut everything before I started filming. I also pre-die cut the sentiment that I'm going to be using from CZ Design, the Joyeux Noël. So everything is all ready to go, and I can prep my surface here with a craft tacky mat to start ink blending all of the tiny pieces. This first set of stems is from the Berry Stems die set, and I've die cut it with peacock teal cardstock, and I'm using raindrop ink to ink blend the center of the stems to give them some dimension. By the way, this is the new size in craft tacky mat from Simon Says Stamp. It's 8x8 and is great for ink blending lots of different pieces, and this size is also great for stenciling. And while I still have this raindrop ink color out, I'm going to ink blend this Twinkly Lights die cut here that I've die cut from Sage cardstock. Now, Sage is a new color of cardstock for Simon Says Stamp, and it's a beautiful color. I love having a variety of greens on this card. It's going to add lots of depth and color to a card with lots of foliage in the background. Now I'm using cabbage ink with some apple green cardstock using the pine needle clusters. And I die cut the pine needle clusters in two different colors. This one is in leafy green, and I'm going to ink blend it with pine ink. So not only am I using a variety of different colors of cardstock, I'm also using a variety of colors of different inks as well to create more color and contrast to the different stems that are going to be in the background. Now for the tall poinsettias, I'm only using the poinsettia flowers in that die set, and I die cut that using pink cotton candy cardstock, and I'm using cranberry ink to ink blend all of the centers. And for the larger, bigger pieces, I wanted more contrast and more depth to those, so I'm adding some Cabernet ink to the center of those pieces. I am done ink blending all of these little pieces that I die cut, so I can go ahead and remove my craft tacky mat and work on the background. For the background, I'm using the Delicate Pine Branches embossing folder. This is an older one that I've always loved, and I think it's always wonderful to bring back older things and make them new again. And I'll simply 3D emboss this by running it through the intercut die cutting machine. This creates wonderful texture for the background of my card, and before I do anything else, I want to ink blend that a little bit too. I want to create a spray going kind of at a curvature along the left side of the card, so that's where I'm going to be ink blending with the cabbage ink along the left side of the panel. Now when I'm done and happy with this color, I felt I needed to bring out those pine leaves a little bit more, so I'm using some pine ink to just lightly go across the top of those pine branches that are 3D embossed to give them a bit more color and dimension. Alright, so when I 3D emboss, I feel like it kind of pulls the cardstock in and makes it all different wonky angles. So I'm going to trim this off just by 1/8 of an inch on all sides so that I can clean up the edges and get rid of any harsh ink marks that are along the edges where it catches the paper. Now I can go ahead and start piecing together and creating my spray. The first and bottom layer is going to be of the twinkly lights. And I, again, wanted it to be set off kind of at a curvature. So I'm kind of manipulating this twinkly light strand so that it does sit at a curvature a little bit. That's why I didn't use the straight one from the die set. I've used 4 colors of cardstock here. I'm using lipstick red, cotton candy, some surf blue, and also some green apple. So I'll evenly space these apart going up the panel. Then I'll start building this up by adding first the pine needles. I'm starting with the darker ones because they're sitting in the back, and things in the back tend to be darker, so that's my method of stacking sprigs for this card. So I will lift up some bulbs where I can, and actually this is kind of moot point because by the end of this we're going to be covering a lot of these pretty bulbs up, and that makes me a little bit sad, but it's still kind of nice to have that extra layer in the background with some of the bulbs sticking out. So I'll add the sprigs here and there, tucking the ends behind anything that I can so that it doesn't look too obvious that it's just hanging out right there. We want the cluster to have a center point somewhere. So I'm kind of arranging my pine needles from the center out, if that makes sense, making sure that it's nice and even everywhere. Then I'm going to use these dark teal sprigs and I'm going to cut them down, but I'm still going to use the other parts because I really want that dark green color and these types of foliages in other areas of this spray. And I love this sprig because it's not a pine sprig, but it's still an arborvitae sprig. It's more like one from a juniper plant or a green giant, which is my absolute favorite arborvitae plant. So anyway, back to this foliage spray, I am just going to tuck and completely use up all the little sprigs that I have. Then I'll put together these poinsettia. And I really love the way that these poinsettia don't look like perfectly round, symmetrical shapes. You know what I mean? They're kind of flatter and they just look a little bit more realistic to me. I just love the way Memory Box designs these dies for Simon Says Stamp. So I'm going to put a heavy block over them while they dry, and then I'll piece together these gold berry stems that I've die cut with some matte gold cardstock for the stems, and for the berries I'm using glitter red cardstock. Everything's going to be linked in the descriptions below as well as on the blog for you, so be sure to check that out if you're interested in the supplies that I used. Once I've added my berry sprigs, I'll go ahead and arrange my poinsettias as well in the spray, and then I'll piece together my sentiment. I'm going to stack 2 white layers and 1 layer of gold over the top, and then adhere it to some shimmer vellum. Shimmer vellum is a new product from Simon Says Stamp's December release, and I love the shimmer that it provides. It's not just a matte vellum, it's got some pearlescent shimmer in it, and it's really, really pretty. You can't see it right now. I know the details are kind of lost in a video, but I assure you that the shimmer vellum is a must-have, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Now before I add the sentiment, I want to splatter my spray. So I'm using some Copic Opaque White ink. I don't know if it's an ink or a paint, but I'm using it to add some white splatters all over my poinsettia spray. And then I'll also add some gold. What's a Christmas card without a little bit of gold and sparkles, right? So I have some glitter in the background, some gold, and some white splatters, and it's all in the name of texture for this pretty card. And because the poinsettias are missing some centers, I'm going to be using some gold dazzling gems, and these dazzling gems are such a great element to add to a poinsettia center because it's sparkly and it's got different sizes, so I can choose a big one for the center and add 4 around that main gem and make a cluster for these poinsettias. And I love that this gold color is like a cross between orange and yellow, but it has that gold shine. It's not like the paint that I used. It's a very sparkly, muted gold. And so now I can go ahead and add my sentiment, and I'll tuck it behind this lower poinsettia just to make sure that it fits on my A2 size panel. And then last thing I need to do is add the little tittles back over the E's, and instead of attaching 6 little pieces of paper, I'm going to use some more dazzling gems. Then the last thing to do is to add this to a card base, and that will finish my poinsettia spray card. I absolutely love how this card turned out, and if you recreate this, please tag me on social media. I'd love to see your creations. I know that if you recreate this card, whoever receives it is going to absolutely love it. All the shimmer and shine that's on it, and the texture, and just the beauty of these poinsettias. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I hope you have a great day. Bye, everyone.